Hi everyone, Luke here from Weekend Tour Pros. You're joining me again today in the studio at City Golf in Chichester as we test two brand new golf balls for 2024, the TaylorMade TP5 and the TaylorMade TP5x. Now what we're going to do in this video is put them through my usual ball test, testing everything from short game to long game. We'll also benchmark against the rival golf ball, the Titleist Pro V1, and we'll also have a conversation about how they differ versus the previous version of these two golf balls. Let's get stuck in. So just before we head back to the studio to start the test, I just want to tell you a little bit of information about the expected performance characteristics and the construction of these two golf balls so you know what to expect when we're testing over the next 15 minutes or so. Now, based on the information on screen, what you can see is that both of these golf balls are a 5-piece construction golf ball, and that does vary very differently compared to other premium golf balls on the market, with most of them being a 3-piece or a 4-piece construction. The cover though is very similar to lots of other premium golf balls, being a cast urethane cover. Now, in terms of the expected performance characteristics, TaylorMade tell us we should expect faster ball speeds than anything else in their range with the TP5, except for that TP5x that will be their fastest golf ball. We should expect long iron distance with both golf balls, so we'll test that in the 7-iron part of the test, but we should expect the TP5x to be a fraction longer. Throughout the test, we should see a little bit higher launch with the TP5x, but both should launch relatively high and deliver that ball flight that I really prefer throughout the bag. In that short game part of the test and those full wedge shots, we should see a bit higher spin with the regular TP5, but we should still get some good spin with the TP5x as well. Finally, in terms of feel, we should get a soft feel from the TP5x and an even softer feel with the regular TP5, and that is a claim I'm really interested to test when we get into the studio shortly, because I do love the feel of a softer golf ball, but I want the performance characteristics of a firmer golf ball, and if TaylorMade have got that perfect package, that would really interest me. In terms of price point, both of these golf balls come in at £44.99 a dozen in the UK, and you do get the option of the white, the yellow and the various different picks options that are available throughout the year. Right, that should have whet your appetite nicely. Let's head back to the studio, let's start hitting those short game shots and let's see how these two golf balls perform. Right, so we're going to start with the TP5 first, we'll then do the TP5X afterwards. We'll keep it that way for the sake of the video, just for consistency. I am also off camera going to baseline some data with Titleist Pro V1 today, so you've also got that as a comparison to see how both of these golf balls compare to the Pro V1. Probably just a fraction heavy first out of the gate, but straight away that clippiness of a premium golf ball in that kind of high 80 compression that we're used to hearing whenever we're testing on the channel. That's much better. Unfortunately, TrackMan didn't pick up my club details there, but it did pick up the carry number, the spin rate. That spin is very similar to what I see from Pro V1, high 4000s on this type of shot, so very familiar set of numbers for me. Definitely feels clippy, definitely sounds quite loud. You can definitely hear that club and ball making contact with each other. If you're someone that's used to playing a premium golf ball, this will feel very familiar to things like the Pro V1. Spinning at 5000 there, that's definitely one of the highest spinning that we've had so far today. Just like that TP5, I've caught that first one just a fraction heavy, and we've seen exactly almost the similar numbers. First one we've caught really nicely with the TP5X. Interesting there, because it's then spun even more than anything we saw at the TP5. So let's take a look at the data from that 20-yard pitch shot. Starting on the left-hand side, you'll see that ball speeds and smash factors were very similar for this type of shot, with the TaylorMade TP5 fractionally faster at 1.02 versus 1.00 with the TaylorMade TP5x. Spin rates were also virtually identical, with only 22 RPM between them, and both demonstrated incredible consistency. Ball flights for these two golf balls were also very similar on this short game shot. Launch angles and land angles were identical, with only 1 foot of difference in peak height. So because of those similar speeds, spin rates and ball flights, the two golf balls perform very, very similar and as such have very similar stopping power with short game shots. In this test, the TaylorMade TP5 stopped after 4.5 yards versus 4.7 yards with the TP5X. These golf balls are performing virtually identical in a short game shot. So how do they compare to the Titleist Pro V1? Well, as you can see from the data on screen, the smash factors with both TaylorMade golf balls were a fraction faster, but every other data parameter was virtually the same. Spin rates are almost identical, launch angles, peak heights, land angles, all very, very similar, as was that stopping power. So for me, you're getting exactly the same performance as a Titleist Pro V1 with either of these two golf balls, and given how identical their performance is to each other, I don't think you should decide which TaylorMade TP5 is the right ball for you based on short game. So let's move up to the pitching wedges and see how they perform there. That felt awesome. Ball speed on good strikes is really good. Just creeping above that 90 mile an hour for me on this type of shot is good. As a result, we're probably eking close to that 115 number. That one there spun at 8113, which is a really good spin number for me. It's going to stop incredibly quickly with that ball flight as well. It's another one that's just very, very similar to the last. That didn't feel like that great a hit and it's still jumped out there. That felt fast. And then all of a sudden you get the confidence to do that one, which is as good as my delivery gets. It's a fraction thin and we've lost a bit of ball speed as a result, but just like that TP5, it's still getting out there, right? Like, I've delivered it almost as straight as it gets. It's definitely the best one. Oh wow, it's huge. Right, let's take a look at the data from those pitching wedge shots. Now, starting on the left-hand side again, you'll see that just like in that short game test, the speed of these two golf balls are very similar with full wedge shots, as demonstrated by those identical smash factors. Interestingly, the TaylorMade TP5X span a fraction less at 7661 RPM versus 7968 RPM with the TaylorMade TP5. The consistency of spin rates were excellent with both golf balls and near identical. Ball flights also followed a very similar pattern and again were very, very similar to each other. Launch angles only were 0.2 degrees different, with the TaylorMade TP5 launching fractionally higher, but the TaylorMade TP5X did reach 1 feet of higher peak height, whilst land angles were identical. The 1.9 yard difference that we're seeing in carry in favour of the TP5X is due to that fraction less spin and the fact that I struck it a tiny bit faster, meaning it was slightly longer at 115.8 yards versus 113.7 yards, but the TaylorMade TP5 did stop marginally quicker at 3.2 yards versus 3.5 yards. Again, I think we can see that both these golf balls are performing very, very similar, but there's a little bit more spin in that TP5 and a yard or so extra distance in that TP5X. So how do both of these golf balls compare to the Titleist Pro V1? Well, interestingly, we can see that ball speeds are very similar and that smash factor number is very, very similar. We can see that both balls did spin a fraction more than that Pro V1. We did see also a slight difference in ball flights. Both TaylorMade golf balls launched a fraction higher. They were also about 10 feet higher of peak height, and they did come in a little bit steeper in their land angle. And as a result, their overall with that spin and that ball flight is a little bit more stopping power with a wedge in this test in my hands. In terms of distance, we also saw that I got a little bit more distance out of both TaylorMade golf balls. So if you need a little bit more control and a little bit more distance with your wedge and you're currently playing a Pro V1, you might find that one of these TaylorMade golf balls is slightly better for you. Just like to show you my dispersion circles here. You can see that front to back it was a little bit tighter perhaps with the TP5, but they were virtually identical left to right as well. Right, now on to those 7 irons. That's the first really good strike with the TP5, and ball speed at 111 is fast for me. Carrying at 159 is as long as I can carry a golf ball. And we've seen there that the spin at 4.8 is close to that number that I like to see. I'd like to get it to 5,000, that's my dream always. But high 4,000 seems to be where I live, especially where I'm hitting the draw at the moment. That's two nice ones in a row. Very similar in terms of all of their numbers. That's the one where I've just left the face open rather than turning it over for that draw. And we've still seen, again, the spin jumps up on that sort of strike because of that slightly more open face. Even off a slightly reduced ball speed, we've still carried it 153. That felt great. The last few have been really nice. It does feel really good as well. What I would say is it definitely feels in this part of the bag, whilst it was clippier and definitely felt similar to Pro V1 in the sort of short game, at this part of the bag, it definitely feels a little bit softer. I can really feel some compression and some explosion off the face, closer to what I'm used to seeing with softer feeling golf balls. And I think, you know, if there's one thing it maybe has over the Pro V1 in terms of feel, it's that in this one part of the test. In the mid part of the bag, it definitely feels that fraction softer off the face. A little bit clean first out the gate, but again, TaylorMade talk about this golf ball being half a club longer than the previous generation, and maybe that was the criticism of the previous golf balls. It spanned a little bit too much and then came up a little bit short. Ball speed of 109 is a good ball speed straight out of the gate, particularly for a shot that I've blocked out to the left-hand side. Carrying at 153 and spinning at 5.3, like that's over that 5,000 number that I want to see. Felt like the best one yet? Yeah, it is. It's that perfect baby little draw that I'm aiming for. A yard right of target is where it's finished. A bit like the actual regular TP5. Again, I don't know if it's the 5 layers, but for a golf ball that's firm, it does feel like, you know, my Mizuno irons are quite soft and lots of golf balls feel nice off them. That's why I've been able to play a slightly firmer golf ball if I wanted to. But they do feel like they are soft. Again, I don't know if it's that number of layers. I don't know if it's the cover on it. It's a lovely one to finish on. Oh, it's huge. Absolutely huge. Again. Right, time to dive into all of those 7-iron numbers. Once again, as we've seen through the first two parts of the test, the smash factors are virtually identical, meaning the TaylorMade TP5 was as fast as the TaylorMade TP5x with a mid-iron. Again, we can see that the spin rates with the TP5 were slightly higher at 4910 versus 4552 RPM with the TaylorMade TP5x. That couple of hundred revs difference that we saw exactly the same as with the pitching wedge. The consistency of the spin rates was strong again, but the TaylorMade TP5 was also slightly more consistent in this part of the test. Just like through the first two parts of the test, the ball flights are virtually identical. The TaylorMade TP5x this time launched a fraction higher at 18.4 degrees versus 18 degrees with identical peak heights, but the TaylorMade TP5 did have that fraction steeper land angle at 42.7 versus 42.5 degrees. But let's be honest here, we really are splitting hairs in talking about these differences. Again, that fraction less spin and near identical ball flight allows the TP5x to carry 1.6 yards longer. Stopping power is also once again incredibly similar, and it would have been identical but for one shot with the TaylorMade TP5, which just came out a little bit lower and rolled out a little bit more, and it's just impacting the data set ever so slightly. So how do these two golf balls compare to Pro V1 in this part of the test? Well, interestingly, if you look at the numbers from the Pro V1 and the TaylorMade TP5 shown in the middle, they are virtually identical in almost every single aspect, so that both the golf balls are performing almost the same. What we can see is the TP5X does differentiate itself ever so slightly by just having that slightly less spin, and it then does give you that little bit fraction more distance. But again, we are really splitting hairs. These differences are quite subtle. As always, just like to show you my dispersion circle, and what you can see again front to back is that the TaylorMade TP5X was a little bit tighter, and I think left to right we can say that both these balls were just as similar in terms of their shot dispersion. Right, let's finish up with the driver. Straight out the gate, 135, a ball speed is good. Oh, it's an absolute brilliant drive. That's just as good as I can hit driver, and we've hit it first out the gate with TP5. 135 of ball speed, spinning at 2.6, carrying 219, 242 total. Just hit a little cutty one there. So the delivery's not great, but as a result, we've still got 217 of carry and we've still got 238 of total off of a little cutty one. That's really, really good for me, really good. That's another one that's nearly perfect. And that's the longest carry of the day at 220.7. 135.9 of ball speed, so 136. Give me that, let me round that up. That's really long for me, and 245. 136, if that's true. 137 it's gone up to. .134 ball speed is good out the gate. That's a really good one in terms of quality of strike for me. Yes, okay, I've turned it over a little bit more, but again, for me personally, yes, the total's still getting out to 240, a couple of yards shorter, but that carry number being sort of 7-8 yards down, I would rather it the other way. I'd rather see that ball get up in the air a little bit, carry anything I need to carry, and then roll out a little bit less for me. Right, for one last time, let's take a look at that driver data. Starting on the left-hand side, I'm going to sound like a broken record here because we can see for the final time that both balls are identical in their speeds, meaning throughout the bag, neither offers a speed advantage over the other, and therefore this shouldn't be the primary reason why you pick one golf ball over the other when making your buying decision. For the first time in the test, we have seen that the spin rates were fractionally higher with the TaylorMade TP5x at 2571 RPM versus 2449 RPM with the TaylorMade TP5. But I do feel like I didn't strike that batch of shots with the TaylorMade TP5x as good as I did with the TaylorMade TP5 or with the Pro V1, which we'll see when we compare to in a second. For the first time, we have seen, however, a small difference in the ball flights, with the TaylorMade TP5 delivering 0.5 degrees higher launch, 3 feet more of peak height, and 1 degree steeper land angle. And as I touched on in the bay, for me personally, I really want to make sure that my driver is launching into the air and that I'm not feeling like I'm hanging back and trying to really force it in the air. So I personally do prefer the numbers from the TP5, but we are talking once again about a subtle difference. Equally, we've also seen a big difference in distance this time, with the TaylorMade TP5 delivering 6.1 yards more carry distance and 5.9 yards more total distance. I will give that caveat again that I just feel like I didn't hit the batch of shots with the TP5X as good as all the other golf balls that I tested on this day. So how do these two golf balls once again compare to the Titleist Pro V1? Well, exactly like we saw in those 7-iron part of the test, the TaylorMade TP5 and the Pro V1 are virtually identical, with once again we can see that subtle difference between the TP5X that just span a fraction more and just wasn't as long for the reasons that we've already spoke about. In terms of shot dispersion, once again we can say that the TaylorMade TP5 has been incredibly tight front to back, and that's been consistent throughout the test, and I think we can say once again that left to right it is very, very similar. So that leads me really nicely into my final thoughts on the TaylorMade TP5 and TP5X golf balls, and I want to break this section down into 3 key parts. The first part is that claim from TaylorMade that the TP5X is half a club longer than the previous incarnation of this golf ball. And I can say, based on some previous testing that I've done with the previous version of the TP5X, I am seeing that claim be delivered by TaylorMade. However, there is a caveat. When I've done testing before, the TP5X is very comparable to the Pro V1X in that both of those golf balls span a fraction more than their non-X counterpart. However, what we've been able to see all the way through this testing is that this time the TP5X spins a little bit less than the regular TP5, and as a result I think it's no longer comparable directly to the Pro V1X, and the way that TaylorMade have got that extra bit of distance is through that reduction in spin that just ekes out a couple more yards. Now, whilst I've never tested the Titleist Pro V1X left dash, I do think that golf ball is supposed to deliver a fraction less spin than the Pro V1 and the Pro V1X, and it therefore might be the case that the TP5X is more comparable now to the left dash, and maybe that's a video we can test on the channel in future. The second point I want to talk about is how identical the performance is between the Pro V1 and the TP5. Through the 7-iron and the driver parts of the test, the performance was literally identical. They looked like the same golf ball. In that short game part of the test, again, it was very similar with that fraction more spin with the TP5, and in the pitching wedge, as well as that fraction more spin, we did see a slightly stronger ball flight with the TP5, but overall very comparable. Now for me personally, with what I'm looking for out of a premium golf ball, this has interested me ever so slightly because I do enjoy playing the Pro V1 when people gift them to me, and I would be really tempted to pick up a sleeve of the TP5 and have a go with them out on the golf course, because it does really interest me just how good that performance was all the way through the bag. The final thing then to talk about is who would play this golf ball, particularly given the price point of it is the same as Pro V1 and the reputation of Pro V1. Well, I think there's three types of golfer that might play it. Firstly, it's the golfer that just love TaylorMade as a brand and love TaylorMade products and therefore want to play a TaylorMade golf ball. The second is the golfer that really enjoys the picks and the different colour options that TaylorMade offer and want to express themselves with their golf ball in that way. The third reason could be due to the performance of this golf ball into the wind. Now there's a lot of anecdotal evidence that this golf ball performs really strongly when playing into prevailing winds due to the dimple pattern and the size of the golf ball. Now unfortunately that's not something I'm able to test in controlled studio conditions, but there are, like I say, lots of anecdotal comments out there that it does do that, and if you are someone that plays a links golf course or into really windy conditions, it could be something for you to put to the test if you are playing a premium golf ball already. Now all that's left for me to say is if you like the video, please do hit that thumbs up button, and if you're not yet subscribed to Weekend Tour Pros, hit that button down below, and if you ring that bell icon, you'll get notified of all my videos as they land on YouTube every single week. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great day. Goodbye.